Yeah, absolutely. Welcome everyone to this session. So today's session, boards navigating the green transition, paths for strategic renewal. This is a very special webinar because it's also a collaboration between Chapter Zero Netherlands, Chapter Zero France, the Climate Governance Initiative in Greece, and Chapter Zero Brussels. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Um, my name is Fernanda Tor. I'm the operation director for Boards Impact Forum. We also have together with us Liselott Engstam, that is the chair for Boards Impact Forum, and then we have our very esteemed guests, Pia Haydenmark Cook, Peter Alstrom, Ann Gram, and Alice Gregoriadi. We are going to introduce them a bit more in detail also. Um, Before we get started, just to give you a bit of an overview of what will happen in today's session. So we start with a presentation from Peter, a bit setting the stage, and then we go into a panel discussion. So very much this sharing different perspectives, but we also want to hear from you. So we have a poll and then we go into breakout rooms. So what we really want to do is exactly the focus on this sharing between the participants. Um, we come back from the breakout room discussion. Again, we share what was the level of the discussion and the insights, etc., and then we wrap up. Um, Also, kind of planting some future events so that we can keep doing this. So, um, we are muting you here for the first part, and we would ask you to stay muted, and we are removing all AI recorders or transcribers, etc. Rest assured, we are recording the session. We will share it. There's nothing you're going to miss out on, and we also write post an article around the webinar, and it's available in our website. So you will have access to the content that we are creating here. The chat box is open. Please go to the chat box, introduce yourselves, where are you calling from. It's really good that we can use the chat box to introduce ourselves, but also if you have an interesting thought, a report, a comment that you want to share, and even questions for the panel, just use the chat. We also want to ask you that you identify yourselves by name when you are attending the event. So we know who we are talking to, but also who is in what breakout room, etc. So to do that, just go to participants, click on participants, find yourselves on that list, click on your name, and then on more, rename, and there you can change your name so you identify yourselves, and it's not just iPad 1 or so that we know who's in the room. So just very quickly, who are we? So Boards Impact Forum is the Nordic chapter from the Climate Governance Initiative, from the World Economic Forum. So what we do is this. We are an ecosystem for board directors in the Nordics. We are particularly interested when it comes to sustainability, and also AI, and how these two forces play with each other. We have two training programs, one on sustainability, on one on AI. We do a lot of these events and increasingly more, and also these collaborations now with the other chapters. So what we are trying to really come together is also trying to understand placing ourselves as board directors in this global context, um, of Europe. What can we as board directors do when it comes to, for example, the Draghi report? We need to be more competitive. what's the contribution that boards can give, and how can we make sure that that contribution is a contribution that is thinking about sustainability. Sustainability from the planet, sustainability from our workforce, sustainability with our stakeholders, and so on. And that's also, it made so much sense for us and for the other chapters here involved organizing this event that we collaborate, that we really drive this together from a board perspective. So thank you so much to Chapter Zero Netherlands and Chapter Zero Brussels, France, and Climate Governance Initiative in Greece for doing this with us together with the Climate Governance Initiative. We always, in all our webinars, everything that we do, we always point out to the 8 principles for climate governance. For those of you who have not checked them out, please do so. Extremely useful principles as a guiding star for any board director. And we usually kind of group these principles in this kind of bigger 4 areas: the board's role, risk, opportunity, and strategy impact, objectives, reporting, incentives, and stakeholder exchange. For today's session, we are focusing quite a lot on the board's role, but also the exchange with stakeholders. We address all the principles, but I think that these are the ones that we are going to focus more on today. The first presenter, Peter Ahlstrom. It's a real pleasure to have Peter with us. He leads Ahlstrom Real Estate in Finland, and that's the real estate arm from Ahlstrom Oy, that manages a very diverse portfolio. It actually doesn't say here, but Peter, you were saying that you are a 5th generation family business, and it's really interesting to have that long-term perspective. You have more than 30 years of leadership experience across the Nordic, but also Central Europe. So you have been very much recognized for your long-term strategic vision, but values-driven management also, while managing very high-performance teams. So it's a real pleasure to have you with us, Peter. And I'm going to stop sharing and give you the opportunity to start sharing your screen.
Well, thank you. So good morning to, let's see if I get this slideshow. Okay, I hope you can see my first slide. Can somebody give me a thumbs up?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for the very nice introduction, and thank you for the honor and opportunity to join you on this session this morning. I saw that we are 58 people online. That is a great bunch. And I just wanted to start out in showing this picture and tell you a bit shortly what I'm going to talk about. So we are talking about boards. We are talking about operations and I have many different hats. So I'm an owner. I'm operative in our family company, a part of it, but I also sit on other boards as a non-executive director, mostly in family companies, but also on a few foundations. So for you to understand really a bit more is what I'm going to tell you is that and who I am is that I represent, in this case, this family. And we are a family company. The Ahlstrom identity is actually their owners, the owner. And we represent 7th generation of continuous commitment and, let's say, contribution to people, profit, and planet. And so we build actually on a legacy of responsibility and ambition over 175 years. So that's quite a big burden that we do, and we want to carry it on for coming generation. So our collective impact builds actually on this joint ownership and these 400 owners that we have. And we are quite an active family, both in business but also socially. And we have our businesses mostly outside Scandinavia. We have actually, very important thing is our mission. And we have worked and agreed on a joint mission, both for the family and owners, but as well also for the business. So we have a joint mission. And we have strived in this work is really strive to find a mission that also captures and resonates to our next gens. And our mission is a better world for future generations through sustainable value creation. And of course, that's a very nice picture here next to it. A bit about sustainability and what has been done over the years. So this is like the roadmap. And so we joined the US Global Compact principles already in 2018. The responsibility policy was published in 2018 with the help of focus areas and metrics we discussed with our companies. And we also benchmark over the years. We have started this more, and we do the annual upright model. In addition to this, there will be a big CSRD reporting, maybe sometimes now with the omnibus, who knows? But that has taken quite a lot of work, and this is something that the work is ongoing. I think everybody has had quite a few gray hairs in this matter. But I think one of the important thing is that within the group, we do a lot of benchmarking within our group, but also with peer groups, and I will come back to that a bit later on. Regarding our focus areas within the group, we have, of course, the ES and G focus areas. Within the E, we encourage all our portfolio companies to align with the Paris Agreement of aiming and limiting global temperature rise, and when relevant, also to commit to science-based target initiatives. Not all the companies do it, but that is what we are aiming for. We aim for good working conditions and environment for all our employees, and emphasis also on good leadership and high performance culture. Let's say employer engagement, we have tried to do also with something called the Alström Collective Impact. And that is where we bring together really people from our portfolio companies physically and on teams working, and what can we do jointly. And so the cohesion and the group is stronger when we work together. Of course, I mean, as Scandinavian, we have our values, which is very simple within Nordics, but as the business are on all continents, this human rights is very important, equality. So we assume long-term accountability for ethical standards and combat also, of course, corruption and bribery. And this we do mostly, we have to work this through active board work and of course support our management. I think that's more or less. By the way, Lisa, somebody might ask if you will distribute some of the information or slides that will be shown. Can you just give a short update on that?
Yes, so we will create a blog post with a summary of it all, and we will share a link to the first part of the recording. And then we will discuss with you, Peter, who of these charts you can agree to share, and we will share those as well. Okay, good. Then really going into the business also, I'll show you here a slide of let's say ESG work in investment processes.
this has been more and more important, and when making screening and looking for new investment opportunity, we actually start with the ESG's part in the due diligence work before we go further on. This has a bit different emphasis depending on what kind of investment. Is it long or short term, or is it through listed companies or unlisted companies? The listed companies already have so many regulations that it's easier to get into what the ESG work is. But with the direct investments, and maybe if it's smaller businesses, this is really an important part of the DD work. Because there are, of course, there's upsides, and there might be really red flags in this matter. Then Lee, okay. Then this was actually a slide that Liselott asked me to show. I've shown it many times before, but it has developed over the years. We developed our own ESG maternity model and these steps, and it has developed over the years. We had the level 1 to 4, from 18 to 23, approx 22. And then in 24, 25, we increased it with level 5 and level 6. And now number 7 is in the making. And it's a bit different depending on what kind of business you are. Are you a listed company or not? But I would say that the listed companies, especially the multinational listed companies, they are already on level 5 or 6. But I would say that my own business, which is forestry and only doing in Finland, and we rely quite a lot on our, let's say, group level of reporting, is that we are something between 3 and 4. So it's not a perfect world, and this is something that we can really strive going on. But there is also some sort of level what is sensible to do. And I understand listed companies that they have to go up to more in to the higher levels. But for me and my business, I think number 4 is already quite good. Then also what I think is important, I talked earlier about peer groups and benchmarking. And here is just an illustrative model of how we benchmark our own companies within E, S, and G, and try to do also with traffic lights to see how this has improved since last year. And there are all colors, and that's also, if you have the red color, I think that's not so nice when you either you go to the board or you sit on the board and you have to discuss these critical issues. But I think this is just a simple way, and of course there are metrics behind all of them, and depending on a bit on there is not exactly one way how to report certain matters, and especially when you take in new companies, how to align them and have the same baseline. But I think this benchmark in general is good. I have a few more minutes, and these are just some other things that we're doing, and the 10 principles, blah blah blah. But I think the upright model is something that I could go on the next slide. So the upright model is probably known to most of you, but the upright model is a system that quantifies the net impact of companies by measuring their positive but also negative effects on their environment, health, society, and knowledge. And as I understand, it uses data and compromises data from scientific research and public databases to provide a holistic way of companies' footprint and make stakeholders understand more informed, and to make informed decisions about resource allocation in the future. but the most important, it measures both the upside and the downside, so both costs and benefits. And I put here my own company in the middle. We are not the perfect company. We use resources. We have trees that we cut down. They are used a lot of gasoline in making the harvest and so on. So I would say the high-tech companies, they are more in the let's say the better part of this scale, whereas very heavy industry using a lot of resources, water, energy, they are more on the left-hand side. But here I put also some peers. So Standard & Poor's are the average is 21%, but we have UPM, which is one of the foremost forest companies in the world. They have 5% is their score. Then I think that my time is coming up, so I just want here to show a few. We have really put up actions in the past. The actions and the KPIs are looked on very thoroughly, but of course we plan also for the coming years. And this CSRD is really something that we are considering. That is there, although if the CSRD or some other legislations are not being put into force, that we might do some own light versions of this thing. And last is just to show you this. I think you know these pictures and how much EU and other sustainability legislations is underway. But I think I'll stop at this time. I thank you for your attention and hope that this gave you some thoughts and maybe that what you could do within your companies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. And I should also say we're very grateful because you're on our strategic advisory board. And it's absolutely delight to follow actually how you are both in your own companies and how you're coaching your portfolio companies to move on and also find the balance. And I just put in the chat actually a white paper on the upright model that you can look at, because the interesting thing with the upright model is that it balances both the positive and the negative impact. So it actually is a fantastic tool, and most of it you can actually access free of charge. It's a fantastic tool for the board to discuss around, and you pointed us to this, and I know you have used it a lot. Thank you so much. Fernanda, can we get the presentation up? I wanted to take the opportunity now to introduce the rest of our panel, which we are also truly grateful to have. And I'll start with another of our strategic advisory board members, Pia Hayden-McCook. So Pia works on a number of corporate boards, including Max Burgers and advisory councils. And she has a really unique background, as she was the Chief Sustainability Officer working in the management team at IKEA, which gives her a very unique position, because as we know, a lot of the sustainability managers is kind of ending up in the report side, reporting to the CFO. So warm welcome, Pia. Anne is also a very specific and really competent and unique person. She has both the board and the investment side of her both background and role. She works in positions, in a lot of fund positions, Future Island funds, the Danish ATP, pension funds, and if we know something, it's really that all of these pension funds specifically are very important, actually, owners of a lot of companies. and a lot of push and guide for us. And she also holds supervisory and advisory board memberships on different types of impact, climate and biodiversity investment. And she has a background from the large asset managers as ABN AMRO, Fortis, etc. So warm welcome, Anne. And finally, not least, we have Alice, and she's a board member at Eurobank and Eurobank Holdings. She's also on the board of the Climate Governance Initiative in Greece, and she's a founding member of the Hellenic Blockchain. So we're also going to talk about both the supervision side, but not the least the guiding side of business. She has a background from a lot of the financial institutions, including Citigroup, ABN AMRO as well, RBS and JP Morgan. And we're delighted to have you as well. Warm welcome, Alice. So I wanted to start to ask you a couple of questions, and you are all welcome to give your points of views as well in the chat. Actually, I'm going to start with asking, and I think I'll ask Pia to start. What is the most misunderstood risk and opportunity today?
Thank you, Liselott, and hey everyone. Great to have so many people on board from so many different places. I mean, there's so many, Liselott, but I had to choose one. I would say information bias and lack of information. So when you sit on the board, and that is one of the reasons why it's so important to have diverse boards with different experiences, backgrounds, and outreach, because it's very easy to be on the board and kind of believe that you know what's going on, but you're missing a lot of information. And especially, I would say, on sustainability today, where we hear a lot in mainstream media that there's a sustainability recession and a pushback, and companies are stepping back. And one company did research just recently on the FTSE 100, and they looked at 56 reports, annual reports, and 30% of the companies actually reduced their climate goals, changed their climate goals. So 30% changed their climate goals. But then when they went in and looked, it was only 10% of that was actually reducing the goals. The rest was more specific goals, because we understand and learn more, we have better data, we're looking more at the total scope 1, 2, and 3. And then they could also see that top tier media were 3 times as likely to write about those reducing the goals rather than those improving their goals. So that lack of information, or information bias, I would say, is a big risk.
Thank you so much for starting with that, because it also gives us a lot of encouragement and hope. Anne, what's your perspective on the kind of most misunderstood risk and opportunity?
Well, I think perhaps even more today than a year ago. I would say the most misunderstood risk is believing climate change is going to go away just if you don't act. And I see a lot of, it's true for boards, it's true for companies, it's true for investors. There are a lot of both risks and opportunities, and they will accumulate and intensify. And the earlier we act, the lower the cost and the bigger the chance we have of actually making an impact. And I see on all these levels more inertia now than just a year ago. A lot of backtracking, and I think the most misunderstood part of this problem is that waiting will benefit us. So that would be my input in this.
Thank you so much. So it's very interesting. I think when we work on boards, we see a lot of additional challenges and risks coming up: geopolitics, the speed of tech, etc. And when we work with our transformation and transition, we quickly realize that it's very hard to just look at risk in isolation. So I wanted to ask you, how can we strengthen our oversight of interconnected risks? And maybe Alice, if you can start on this one?
Thank you, Liselott. I would say it's very important that we don't look at standalone. We do not have and we do not treat ESG and the climate issues, especially as a standalone function and on the side of the organization, on the periphery. We bring it in and we embed it in the frameworks that the organization already has and becomes integral part of it. So embedded into the operation and risk management into the strategic frameworks. That's a very important thing to do. The second thing I would say is look at the board composition and how you can ensure there is climate competence in the board, digital literacy, and stakeholder engagement capabilities, and all of those together should be present at the board level in order to be able to identify all the interconnected risks. And the last thing I would say here is use AI because it's extremely difficult to assess all the interconnection, and AI is really helping tremendously. For example, in banking, where I have a lot of experience, we use we use AI for model climate scenarios, for asset financed emissions. We use it to scan all relevant available information inside and outside the organization and within the supply chain and our clients. Monitor ESG risks in real time. And optimize operational performance for achieving resource efficiency within the organization. So in a lot of places, you can use AI these days to be able to be helped to assess interconnected risks.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Alice. And I think that the interesting thing with that is that even on an individual level, you can actually do a bit of scanning and use that. So I know that banks are really in the forefront of a lot of this, but actually also on an individual level. Peter, I know that you have a really good way of discussing and looking at this, and you just need to get off mute.
Thank you for fostering this. No, actually, I was just about to say raise a hand, because this was Alice said is that you are on the forefront on AI, for example. But I think in of course, when we choose management, we choose board members, we use them for different competences, and mostly it's business competences. And now ESG is of course part of that. But if you go back a few years and looking forward, I mean, there are coming new ways of what to look into, and especially this risk and how really I have seen that really how to align the discussion level. And there we need to see that, are we really talking about the same thing? People have really different ways of, some do it on their own, some train their boards or their management in these topics. I think this, just to be frank and raise your hand, I don't know anything about this matter. I'm vulnerable, please help me out so I can contribute. And I think this is something, and I know that there are a few courses to take, but I have not yet got my board into a joint training session. I think I will try, especially for the AI, because this is something we are more conservative in many ways. I think this could be a way of also getting the cohesion between the board is to work together.
Yeah, actually, really interestingly, so Fernanda and I have done a lot of different research. One of our best practices is actually if you can educate the board and the management together, because that achieves a lot of alignment very quickly. So that's an interesting base.
Can I chip in on this one?
Absolutely, go
I
ahead.
think it's a very good point, and we might come back to it later. When you have boards, especially large boards, knowledge and opinions are very scattered. And I think especially regarding systemic change, like climate change and all these very, very big forces, I think it's, but for a lot of different subjects, of course, it is so important to have these joint education sessions just to get up to a common sort of minimum level of knowledge and understanding, because that really facilitates a joint discussion. And of course, it's very valuable to have many opinions, but it's just very nice and very, I think, important and even necessary that these different opinions are coming from at least the same basic knowledge level. So it's not based on sort of different gaps or impressions of the facts that's facing the company.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing this. Now, moving into the next step, we often talk about the risks and the risks of climate, but actually, we also know that we will not move ourselves out of this if we don't also focus on innovation. So I wanted to start again, Pia, with you. How do boards actually embed the innovation thinking, and especially can you see that boards are starting to foster some kind of actually better reporting, better engagement with the opportunity side? What's your perspective?
Just also before I answer that, I just wanted to add one thing on the previous question, where I think it's also important what Peter and Anne said, but also structurally from a governance point of view to allow time in the board. Too many boards are so packed with agenda, and a lot of it is talking about what has been and reporting into the board, rather than having the education and then having proper time to discuss and together reach a common understanding and a common view. What does this mean for the company? So that was just one. But yeah, on the board and on innovation, unfortunately, I think there's less of innovation and opportunity grabbing in sustainability and climate change today than it was just a few years ago. For two reasons. One, even though I am in favor of regulation, but when it becomes only about regulation and reporting, we kind of forget that sustainability is fundamentally about who are you as a company, what are your products, what do you choose to do, and how do you service your clients, and how do you find new innovative ways when you understand the kind of planetary boundaries, the social frameworks that you're in, and how can you use that to provide something that is needed rather than yet another product that no one really needs but want. So I think that there is that movement, and then of course the general backlash where we kind of frame into CFO and finance and reporting rather than innovation, exploring new boundaries. One example, when I was at IKEA, when we started with the solar business, that of course came from the business, not so much from the board, but the board allowed us to think broadly about understanding our footprint as a company and where were there areas where we could make a difference. So starting a whole new business selling solar panels to customers, also having 10 years of putting them on the roofs of the stores, but also going to it required courage, leadership, but also we created a quite robust innovation process within the company where we were allowed to fail early and test things and constantly. So that as I would say, courage, but also agility and processes is important that boards set up so we create value.
And I think it's a fantastic area because most companies have not yet started to move into other industries, which you obviously did in this topic. And I think that is also what you will see more and more. now we are actually trying to move ourselves into the transition part. Alice, I know you have a lot of experience here. Can you share some?
Yes. So, we have to move, as we said, beyond the checklist, ticking the box, and go to scenario planning, innovation, and long-term value creation. And we have to adopt forward-looking tools such as climate stress testing, transition risk modeling, and impact forecasting to inform capital allocation and business model adaptation. Use sustainability as an extra layer as well when we assess looking for value creation within and opportunities within the organization to create operating effectiveness. What we have done within the banking sector, issue sustainable bonds, for example, make investments both internally and externally, our buildings, creating green buildings, basically, giving financing green projects for our customers. We have advisory services and raising awareness within the supply chain, because the supply chain is extremely important here, and a lot of the SMEs do not know, or they cannot represent properly where they are in the spectrum of sustainability. Therefore, us, banks being the glue, as I say, of the ecosystem, they can really facilitate, they can go beyond just doing things on their own and being the facilitator of the industry to start mobilizing the whole ecosystem, raising capital for customers and for ourselves on the specific, in order to create the projects, support the SMEs, as I said, transition finance, very important thing that we are doing, and also the digital transformation. So, for example, we are looking within Eurobank, we are looking at a phygital model where you don't have only physical branches, but you combine, the digital part as well in order to create more efficiencies and to make it less physically demanding and onerous for the clients to get on board.
Very good. Thank you so much for that. Now, I'm going to go in a bit more to kind of what are the practices boards have that can actually move this. I want to add a sub-question in there, and that is, when we are getting into the transition, we also need to stay agile, as you also mentioned. So I want to hear a bit about your board practices, but specifically, how do you coach management, and how do you coach each other, the other board members, to actually move forward? Do you want to start on that, Anne?
Yes, of course. I think we touched upon some of the practices already, and of course, there are very many practices you can install to enhance this. One is about the programming of the board agenda, and Pia touched upon this. I think it's really important on a structural basis to allow time for the strategic discussions, for education for the whole board, and not just the day-to-day decisions that urgently should be taken. So strategic decisions or strategic reflections upon the main or the outside forces that are of importance. And it's not just climate change, but it's also, for instance, innovation. So as mentioned, one of the big things, of course, right now is AI. That you allow time for these strategic items, developments in your general board agenda on a regular basis. But I would say also it's very good to take perhaps once a year, or perhaps even twice if you can find the time, but at least once a year, take a whole day off with the whole board, or well, I say off is generally hard work, but it's necessary. So it's not like taking time off, but go out of the standard setting and spend 1 or 2 or 1.5 days together and have strategy days. And that will really help you navigate the challenges from the outside, and it will also help as a byproduct the team. So it can be very important team building practice as well. And a third one will be to focus on board diversity. That you have a diverse board that, of course, in terms of competences, Peter referred to business competences. Very often we just look at the quotas of how many women are in the boards, but I would actually encourage to look at board diversity from a broader perspective, and also look at diversity of thought, of mode of operation. So you actively are conscious of your culture in the board, avoid the pitfall of group thinking, and actively encourage other ways of thinking. And sometimes you have boards where it's even being penalized if you have somebody who is an outlier coming with difficult questions. But I think you should treasure that as a board, because that will get you further as the collective.
Right, thank you so much. And Peter, I wanted to ask you, and also go into this specific on the coaching side here, because you have many hats, so you actually have to coach it. In almost every board, there is a naysayer, or there is a person that don't think this is important enough. How do you get that through, both as an investor, as a board member, and as in your companies?
Well, I would say actually, how I'm seeing it, yes, you're right. There might be somebody naysayers, but after getting together, and many of you have said that spend time together outside the boardroom. Is it a dinner or just a field trip or something? Spending time more together helps this physical safety, and starting out really with the physical safety and understanding people. Then you might understand why they say no. And then it's easier really to take up on the topic and why do you say so? And it's not a thing that you attack them. I just want to understand you. And people then open up and saying why they say no. Sometimes we are just a bit blunt saying no. It's easy instead of explaining why, because it might also be a time restraint. So it's easier to say no or yes without giving the background.
I totally agree. So meanwhile, when we're looking at the last questions, I'm launching the poll here, so we'll get some input from all of the participants here. And there's 3 questions. The first one is, our board has set a clear target and a concrete plan for the green transition this is about. The second question is about, do we actively identify and pursue the opportunity side? And the third one is going to the AI. Our board has ensured and updated the strategic workforce plan that reflects the AI's impact. So we love to hear from you on that topic. The related question I'll ask meanwhile, where everybody's answering, is how can we make and communicate and help drive that the transition becomes a competitive advantage? And this is specifically also for Europe, since we often nag ourselves that we are too much into the reporting and compliance side, but how can we make it into an advantage? So do you want to start on that, Pia?
Sorry, took a little bit to unmute. Yes, I think there are many ways, of course, but one is to create enough regulation so that we don't do the really bad things, but not so much regulation so that doing new and testing new things become extremely cumbersome. And I think, so that's one thing, looking at regulation, looking at the governance. Another one is an attitude thing of daring to take risks and making mistakes. So that's more the culture in the company. So there's a combination of, if I take an example again with circularity, when we worked on that in IKEA, there were so many hinders in the operations regarding how waste was defined, how we could store waste, how we could work with it in a new way, how we can interact with customers in it. So if we hadn't had a very clear vision from the company, this is what we need to do, this is what we want to do, so we just need to overcome all these barriers because it's the right thing to do. There was a lot of barriers. So talking to business, so having policymakers and business talk even more, even though it's much better now than before, to really understand we want to get there. We have all these, the new Green Deal. This is where we want to get to. How can we enable and facilitate companies getting to that quicker?
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. Alice?
Yes, thank you. I think you cannot make a change instantly. There are a lot of things that culturally, in the ecosystem, as I said before, that do not work in a certain country. For example, you may have customers that belong to a certain sector, that sector is not ready yet, has not been fully, become green. What does that mean? You are as successful as your weakest link within your chain, essentially, on how green you can become. So, you can do whatever you want within your organization, but if whoever you are giving your products to or receiving services from, are not, then you have an issue. You see what I mean? So I think materiality is extremely important, not as a reporting requirement. We really need to look at materiality in a different aspect, in the different perspective, and look at exactly how it drives risk management and capital allocation, and how you make how you concentrate the concentration of your exposures, and your long-term competitiveness. And double materiality is even more important to do. Double materiality is the financial materiality of how sustainability will impact the business, but also impact materiality on how the business, our business, impacts the climate and the society. So we need to look at it holistically and proactively.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Now, the poll, I will end the poll and I will share the results. And you can all look at that little box that you have with the result, and you can actually roll it up and down yourself in your box. So I wanted to start with, we all think we all have our house in order, but I think also even the answer to the first one, about half of the team here has clear goals and clear plans, but half actually don't really have a solid plan. So I don't know, Anne, do you want to comment on this result? And we can't hear you.
Yes, sorry. Well, I think results speak for themselves. Actually, some years ago, I would be very happy about this because I've been trying to put this on the agenda in boards for like 10 years. And for the first 5 years, nobody were listening, and just it was seen as unnecessary. And the last 5 years, it has really gained a lot of traction. So from that perspective, I think it's very encouraging. It's on everybody's agenda now, I think. And the fact that so many boards already and companies already are integrating this in their agenda is really good. But still, so there's a long way to go, because it should the number should be higher. So it reinstates sort of the importance of these sort of spreading knowledge, sharing best practices. I think that's really good, so we can get the collective number up.
Right. So let's go to number 2, where how good are we in guiding the innovation side and the opportunities created from the climate change and the AI shifts? A slightly less positive note here. And maybe Alice, you want to comment on this one. Does this play to what you see in other situations?
Sorry, I could not. Yes, it has. Unfortunately, I did not answer that question. I didn't have the. I pressed the submit too fast. Yeah, I didn't scroll down. Obviously, I spoke about AI previously, so we have started really embedding into the whole strategic direction. AI and new opportunities, as I mentioned. I think it's extremely important that boards really not only get an update of where we are on ESG and on climate. We really embed it into the board chapters in order to really make it part of the decision-making, the strategic decision-making process. So it has to be in all the main committees. So nominations and audit committee, absolutely necessary. Then, performance metrics have to be monitored, at BRC, at SPC, strategic committees, and the risk committees, and also give executive incentives through the REMCO, through the remuneration committee. Really try and create the policies and the background within the organization for that to flourish, for people to start thinking also from incentives perspective and KPIs, that they will have to start thinking in a different way, innovate, and really look at the specific risks and opportunities.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. I'll quickly go to the topic 3, and Fernanda will come back, because we've made a very solid research on boards and AI, and she'll come back to that. But here, this is one of the topics we identified, and we wanted to point out 2 things. So you can see from the result that over half, or actually the vast majority, have not looked into the strategic impact of AI on the talent. In fact, we also wanted to point out that according to the AI Act, which we are now all under in Europe, as a board, you need to know that you are, according to the Act, responsible to ensure that there's training for all employees that in any way come in contact with AI, which literally is everybody. So we think it's really important that we think about this in a combined way. Fernanda, shall we just actually get into the breakout rooms now? Thank you so much. So we're letting you go into breakout rooms. We will bring you back from there. We want you to agree a chair to lead and a vice chair to take notes, so you can report back. The chair that leads cannot be anybody in our panel. So make sure that it's some of the other people. The key question we want you to discuss is actually how the boards can turn the green transition and the AI shifts into a strategic advantage. So how can we help our companies turn it into a strategic advantage. You will automatically be sent it, you just need to accept, and then we will bring you back. You will have about 12 minutes to discuss this. And thank you so much for sharing that. We totally agree with you. I now want to bring the panel back because I have asked them to prepare one recommendation each. So I wanted to start with Pia. What is your recommendation for a board member for the next 3 years?
Thank you, Liselott, and everyone. I would say the one recommendation is to stay agile and to lean in, and to the whole board, that we are coming out of one world order going into a new world order, but the new world order is not really settled yet. So that's why there's so much chaos. So moving away from this, I'm going to wait and see until it goes back to normal. It won't go back to normal. So lean in, be agile, test, improve. And like you were saying, Anne, it's not going to be more competitive or easier if we wait a few years. Start now, get going, and test and learn and fail fast and improve.
Thank you so much. Anne, what's your recommendation?
Try to adopt a system level mindset so that you incorporate in your board agenda both the outside in threats, risks, and also the inside out impact on environment, etc. And make enough room in your board agenda, as we discussed, for strategic discussions.
Thank you so much. I think that is so valuable. And the only way to get there is actually to really govern the agenda and make sure that the most strategic things are the ones that takes the place, not the reporting. Peter, what is your recommendation?
Well, my recommendation would be working in more traditional fields, is that to really try to use new tools and have a mindset in looking forward and find for the opportunities with the new tools that we can have.
Thank you so much for that. And Alice, a quick conclusion here.
Yes, so I would say try to co-design your climate and digital transformation strategies together. Not stand alone, each one, because we are all going through digital transformation, knowing all the new things that are coming up and how we are going to embed them in the organization. Climate at the same time. Design it together in order to support financial accessibility, operational excellence, and sustainable business development.
Thank you so much for that. We're going to come back and thank you even more in a short while. I will leave the word over to Fernanda. Thank you so much.
Super. I'm just going to share my screen because I want to make sure that that we have this moment to align on next steps and how we can continue. It's great that we have these discussions. Let's keep doing it. So for those of you who are in Stockholm on next week already, or want to have a good excuse to come to Stockholm next week on Friday, breakfast. We are actually going to launch our book, this research that Liselott has been mentioning on AI leadership for corporate boards. You are all very welcome. Just I put now in the chat, you can register there or just send me an email. Also connected to this research is the training program that we have created and we have been delivering. So this training program, and actually it's very funny because we have been, not funny, but we're all aligned, I should say. We have been exactly discussing the importance of training and doing the training with the board and having the same kind of language. So this is a very good opportunity. So it's based on this research that we have conducted, and we are going to deliver it both online but also with a full day in Stockholm. So if you want to use your skis, again, a good excuse to come to Stockholm, join us face to face. If you want to stay warm and comfortable, you do it online. We have a 50% early bird now until the end of November. So I think it's a really good opportunity, both for you, but again, you know, other board networks in your network. We wanted to also highlight the upcoming events now on the 26th of November that are available on the Climate Governance Initiative platform. So there's a very interesting, we think, event on scenario analysis and planning. This is for financial firms, but we think it's really relevant for all the firms, really. And then, of course, we have COP 30 and what is happening in COP 30 and kind of what's next for businesses. So there's a debrief on the 3rd of December that we think it's really interesting also. We also have a tip from our colleagues at Chapter Zero Netherlands on the 13th of February, Navigating Sustainability, where board responsibility meets legal liability. And I think, if I remember correctly, this event is in Dutch. But for all of you who are connected to Chapter Zero Netherlands or can speak the language, please sign up on the 13th of November. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all of you who were with us today. Your willingness to share and to really exchange practices. Thank you so much to our speakers that have been driving this this event in such a fabulous way. Thank you so much, Pia. Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you so much, Anna. And thank you so much, Alice. And above all, thank you so much to all the chapters that have collaborated with us setting up this event. We want more of this. We think it's great. We really need to start discussing these topics also kind of on a collaborative European level. So that's it from my side. Thank you, everyone, and wishing you all a great day.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye. Have a good
Thank you.
day.
Bye bye. Have a good day. Bye.